In Ashtanga Yoga, we spend so much time on our hands that it's important to figure out how to prevent wrist pain. Now, one of the things that really causes problems is when your wrist bends beyond a 90-degree angle and you start to put weight on it. It's quite a common problem to put your arm like this. So see, for instance, in an upward facing dog, as you go into the pose, your elbows, and in this case your shoulders, should be in line with your wrists. Rather than letting your shoulders come forward, you'll notice the elbows do as well. And this angle here starts to put a lot of pressure on the wrists. It's real common to see people there in that position. Instead, as you go into the pose, make sure you roll your shoulders back so that they come over top of your wrists, and that'll keep the pressure off there. We spend so much time in that pose that if you're doing it like this, with your shoulders collapsed and not moving backward, you're never gonna you're gonna continuously put that little bit of strain on your wrist each time. So instead, really focus on that. Shoulders draw back, your chest lifts up through them. Instead of just pushing your shoulders up here, you want to draw them back and then let your chest lift through that space. Now, if you can't do that, if you find it real difficult or you don't have that flexibility, come down first and adjust your hands so that you can lift into that pose with the correct alignment. And you just have to put your hands in the right spot. Right now, Bhujapadasana is another position where you can get that same incorrect alignment in your wrists. You'll notice here that if the wrists are straight, you get this acute angle at the wrists. Instead, if the elbows bend, you can keep the elbows directly over the wrists, and that will give you that 90 degrees. And as you go into it, your elbows can even move back a little and gives you even less pressure on your wrists. Now, Urdhva Dhanurasana, again, same issue. As you go up, a lot of people come into it like this. They don't have the flexibility to bring the shoulders over the wrists, so you get this pressure on your wrists. Instead, look, the elbows can bend here and squeeze inward, putting your elbows over your wrists. If you've got the flexibility, sure, bring your shoulders over. But bending the elbows is another option that will allow you to keep the pressure off your wrists in that position. Now, if you're quite flexible, you can put weight on your feet, step your hands forward, and again, try to get yourself into the position where your shoulders are directly over your wrists. But remember, if that doesn't work, don't be rushed. Just bend your elbows to put them there. Another option here that I quite like is that you can put some blocks against the wall, make sure that they're stable, and then notice that they're at this angle here. As you put your hands on the blocks, your hands are now at a different angle to the floor. And so as I lift up, look, my shoulders are quite far forward of my hands, but the angle of the wrist here is about 90 degrees. And that means that you're not going to get that jamming motion into your wrists that puts a lot of pressure on them. Downward facing dog is another position that it's common to put pressure on your wrists in a different way. You'll see here, if your knuckles all lift off the floor, you put all your weight right there onto the wrist. Instead, you want to transfer it forward into your knuckles. So what you're going to do is you're going to lift that spot just where the thumb meets the wrist gently away from the floor. Now you may not see that, it's a small movement, it's just a millimeter. This place where the thumb meets the wrist is lifting. So it comes a millimeter off the floor. You take the weight off of there and it's going to transfer forward into your knuckles. Another nice side advantage of that is that as you do that, it'll help you to get more extension in your downward dog. But it's just this movement right there. That spot lifts away from the floor and the weight transfers forward into all of your knuckles as they spread apart. If you do that, you can extend nice and strong into your downward facing dog.